Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with another Xbox news update. I hope all of you are doing fantastic after the weekend. I just sank in bed and played Final Fantasy 12 all weekend, doing the rest of the world out. So that was pretty nice. With that, we're back talking about Xbox. We got some interesting news updates today on potential exclusives. One that's highly anticipated that is likely also coming to the Switch is Goldeneye 007. It's been in the rumor mill for months now. What's going on with that? We're going to talk about that today, along with 1 vs 100, which was a very popular Xbox 360 game looking to make a return, now may be in a state of limbo. We're also going to be getting into what's going on with the Xbox over in Japan as it's thriving as we speak, and maybe I underestimated some of those early numbers we talked about. And last but not least, some adjustments on the front of Halo Infinite, which I think will be positive news for all who care about the game's future. So if you're new here and you're into Xbox news, information, discussions, all that stuff, consider subscribing. Now, let's talk about Goldeneye 007. So this is a game that we've been waiting for a while to get some type of remake or remaster and have it arrive on modern consoles. In fact, we had a version that was done and it leaked out onto the internet and it's completely playable. But we have one that's yet to officially release, and we know that much is real because there are achievements over on trueachievements.com. And in fact, there is a rare employee that unlocked an achievement for this suspected GoldenEye remaster. So it's there, it's real, and we're just waiting on when it's gonna drop. But what's going on? What's the hap? Well, Jeff Grubb has the word through this article by PureXbox.com, where they write, the latest update from the reporter Jeff Grubb is that the release is, quote, still in limbo because of the war, end quote, with no further information provided. Windows Central's Jez Corden was also asked about this, but advised he's never heard anything about the GoldenEye 007 project for Xbox via his own sources. This is one of those situations where can't really complain. Right now, the world's in a shitty spot, and so it is what it is. However, this isn't the first time we've seen this type of thing. For example, I talked about this via sources of my own that I can confirm that the Witcher 3 update, the reason that was delayed was because of the war happening in Ukraine, and CD Projekt Red had to jumble what studio was actually working on it, so it pushed back the Witcher 3 next-gen port, and that's why it's coming out in the holiday. Originally, there was a lot of speculation that this could have been a bad thing, given that maybe something happened internally at the studio. They had missed deadlines again. It's something that I had speculated as well personally, but then was told that's not the case. So this isn't the first time we've seen this happen. Of course, on a more public, broader level, stuff like Stalker 2, the delay of Replaced, a fantastic looking indie game, and now GoldenEye 007. So we're really feeling the impact here in the gaming sphere. Of course, as always, I'm just of the mentality, take your time. We'll get this game when we get this game. It's been around for a while. I'm looking forward to playing it when it does come out. But that's the word on GoldenEye 007, which I believe is just a matter of time. And with it being an anniversary for GoldenEye next month, you'd have to imagine that they're going to try to make a push for August to get something happening with that. We'll see, though. With that, we move on to our next story, which has to do with 1 vs 100. Now, in that same Twitter thread where the replies were happening about GoldenEye, Jeff says, 1 vs 100's team lead left Microsoft. I don't know what that means for the game. And then Jez steps in and says, was that Kipman? To which Jeff says, yes. And then Jez says, Jeff Tepper now leads that team as far as I know, reporting to our Lord and Savior, Panos Panay. Now this is important because, of course, when a team lead leaves, it's not really a good sign for the game. You sort of have the oversight, the mind behind the project saying, all right, I'm out. Now, it could mean that it was far enough along where they're like, okay, y'all got the rest of this handled. Nothing's going to really change with this, especially if it's a thing that's already been made, 1 vs 100 on the Xbox 360 days. Yeah, it's just going to come back probably as is with some new bells and whistles. This is a great time to bring this game back. I completely missed out on it. So for me, this is actually really exciting to get my hands on something that I see a lot of Xbox 360 fans talk about, saying like, this was awesome. Like, you just sign in, you see everyone there with their Xbox avatars. So I'm looking forward to getting in on that. You know, nowadays with social media, sharing content, the metaverse being a thing, I feel like Xbox has something lying there in 1 vs 100 that could really thrive nowadays, right? They've been looking for their Fall Guys, which is now on Xbox, but it wasn't. It was originally a PlayStation Plus game. They've been looking for the Rocket League, which started off as a PlayStation Plus game, right? They've been looking for their own thing that is a big deal on the internet globally. It's a phenomenon. that is their own thing. They have yet to really, outside of like, I'd say Halo Infinite and Forza, really like strike gold on something brand new. And so hopefully this is their moment for that with a, whoa, I didn't know what this is, but this is amazing type of thing. And maybe you could have it with like your phones connecting and stuff so everyone could get involved. Xbox seems pretty big on that. I look at a game like As Dusk Falls, an upcoming day one Game Pass game where I could have the controller, you could have the phone, and we can all play together. Doesn't really matter. So it looks like a really good time in that sense, and maybe 1 versus 100 could benefit from that shared play experience. We'll see in due time, but with a change in leadership, I don't want to say my confidence is low. I feel like they're going to get it out anyway, but it might take a bit longer, which is why we probably have yet to see it. But could this be something that we learn later this year? I'd say it's possible. With that, let's move on to another story. Xbox in Japan. So it was confirmed that Xbox Series X and S has now surpassed 250,000 units sold since its launch in Japan, with a lifetime total of 260,504 units. And for comparison, the Xbox One sold 114,000 units in its entire lifetime. So the Series X and S have maintained strong sales in Japan. They've been a competitive platform there. This is awesome to see. It may mean that I completely shortchanged the numbers we saw previously that we discussed, where Xbox was beating out PlayStation pretty regularly week over week with its sales. And I was thinking like, maybe it's a supply issue. Maybe it's just Game Pass. Maybe it's the hype of the showcase. I do think investing in Japan on the level they did accelerated things, seeing Wolong, seeing Persona, seeing Hideo Kojima. That's a massive move right there. And there's still pieces missing. I'll say it ad nauseum. You look at the trust issues I have with Xbox where it's like, you got everything right, and then Mega Man Battle Network's missing. And you're like, okay, you know, why? What happened here? I don't get it. But I digress. They're making progress, and because they're making progress, Japan's investing in them, where they have more than doubled their numbers when it comes to the Xbox in Japan. And this is big because the most numbers they've seen is just a bit over 1 million with the Xbox 360. Now, we're 2 years into the life cycle, so if it keeps up at this rate, at let's say right now we're at 260,000 units, we'll round it down to 250,000 every 2 years. You could look at Xbox at the end of the life cycle nearing that million count, which has been kind of elusive for them outside of one generation. The original Xbox did well enough, but it didn't hit what the 360 did. Xbox One was a complete miss, as we already know. So yes, with the Xbox Series consoles, come the end of the generation, depending on how long it is, we could see a really strong performance in Japan that could only grow more thanks to Game Pass subscriptions, thanks to xCloud. So hopefully what this means is, as many of you and myself have been begging for, more Xbox-centric Japan titles. What I mean by that is that renaissance of Infinite Undiscovery, Lost Odyssey, Blue Dragon, Operation Darkness. So many cool Xbox 360 JRPGs that just came out of nowhere and you went, whoa, this is really good too. I don't know if they'll go on the bombastic level of something like Lost Odyssey, where Xbox makes their own Final Fantasy, but I think right now, when you look at Square Enix and how they're getting close over with PlayStation, and Final Fantasy's pretty much hands off now, you got to find some answers. And I think a Lost Odyssey 2 would be a good answer, but that's just the fanboy in me speaking. Anyway, great to see Xbox having some strong success in Japan. Hopefully it's a sign that with this persistent support from Japan, that they will invest in them more moving forward with not only just exclusives, but day one Game Pass games. I'm not saying anything you haven't thought of before, probably. Yes, it'll be nice to see more games like Wolong, like high-profile JRPGs get day one Game Pass. Showing that Xbox can broaden the reach of these games, and the ecosystem that they're born from will also enjoy the boons of Game Pass. With that, let's move on to our last bit of news here. So, I talked about last week how I think 343 is just in a complete state of disarray as we stand. However, one thing that we've talked about a lot is getting some familiar hands on deck to help stabilize this project, but also to aid in moving it forward. Because right now, a lot of people are calling for 343 to get off this series. And in a lot of ways, I agree with that sentiment. I feel like they've dilly-dallied long enough. I really like what they did with Infinite gameplay-wise, but the support hasn't been there. It's just a new story for every release, and it's getting kind of tired at this point where something needs to give. So what they're doing is making a pretty significant hire here, I'd say, that I'd like to talk about a bit more. Joe Staten posted on his personal Twitter account, "I'm happy to confirm Halo veteran Paul Bertone has joined the team as Studio Technical Design Director. Paul and I met in 1999, back in Bungie's Chicago days, and then shipped Halo 1 through 3 ODST and Reach together. I'm thrilled to have Paul help lead the future of Halo Infinite." Now, I know a lot of people, especially nowadays with how great Destiny 2 is doing, like, see Bungie and go like, "Oh my God, yes, 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 bring back those days. Please, please, please." But for me, really, it's good that we have people who understood what made the series special and important and played a big role in that, getting together to help lift up Halo Infinite. Look, we saw what happened with Master Chief Collection, right? It launched in a complete disaster, but you look at it now, minus the microtransactions, and things are looking pretty good for that game. It is a complete Halo package, streaming between multiple engines, all in one thing. It's a real achievement on a technical level too, as you can also switch back and forth between the old graphics and the current ones. I mean, just so much there. Tons of multiplayer matchmaking lobbies. It's incredible what they've done long term and what they've added to the Master Chief Collection. It truly is the complete package. So I think it stands to reason that people are believing that Halo Infinite will be benefiting from that long-term second win that 343 has shown they are capable of with games like Master Chief Collection. I just wish that they got it like bang, ground running, we're good to go, let's keep rolling. I wish it didn't have to come down to this, but getting people from Bungie in a senior level position is a big deal and can help keep the ball rolling, because if I were to just make a guess from what I am seeing from the outside, I feel like, again, 343 is kind of in a state of disarray. Like, it just seems the project management was not in sync across all positions. Like, the early launch of the multiplayer indicating there's more content coming, but there's no content, so you effectively extend your own drought. That's something to me that still makes no sense. I am very thrilled that they tried to, get the celebration going early, but I feel like long-term it was probably the bad call. Could have used a little bit more of a delay, but I digress. Having more steady hands on the project from Bungie, familiar with what it takes to launch a great Halo game, could lead to that second win where we get that awesome expansion again and again and again. And you look at how, I think, speaking of Bungie, Destiny launched. I can't act like I was in the thick of things with Destiny, but if there's one general community consensus I personally see, and granted, I may have a biased opinion because my co-host is a huge Destiny 2 fan, Cognito. So for me, I hear all the time how Bungie's just in a state where they're rolling. Like, they are on one right now. So I feel like maybe Halo Infinite is hoping to get to that point where it's just like, boom, another update and another big one, and it kicks ass too, and it's exactly what you wanted. Here we go again. Like, that would be awesome to see, and I think getting people in those senior positions from Bungie will help the project. Anyway, that's all I got for you in today's Xbox news update. Let me know what you're thinking about this in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.